Hi there, Sherry Schreiber of GettingBetter.com. And on my Twitter feed, I suggested that I was going to do a video about empathy. Now, as usual, I don't pre-script these, so this may be a real short video and it may be longer. Might be longer, especially if I go into tangents, which I usually do. It's the ADD mind, you know. But empathy, a lot of people, probably most, confuse the term empathy with sympathy. They are very different animals. Sympathy is the ability to feel sorry for another, feel sorry for a hurt dog, an animal, feel sorry for a person, an amputee, a paraplegic who's stuck in a wheelchair for the remainder of their days. But empathy is the capacity to relate to another's experiences, feelings, and struggles. And this is something that borderlines cannot do. Narcissists cannot do it either. Both are devoid of empathy, as I say in one of my other videos, because they're so disconnected from and dissociated from their own pain, their own sense of fragility, their own sense of vulnerability, that they cannot relate to those experiences in you. So let's get this straight now. Sympathy is the ability to feel sorry for somebody. And empathy is the ability to identify with and relate to exactly what they're going through. Big difference, huh? I think they feel kind of similarly in the body. They both kind of tug at our heartstrings, but they're very, very different animals. So even the caregiver, fixer, rescuer type individual, be they male or female, has no capacity for empathy. They think they do. They raged at me on the phone and argued with me about that. Oh, I'm plenty empathetic. No, you're not. Because you're completely divorced from your own sense of vulnerability and fragility, which is just part of being human. Doesn't take away from our strengths, doesn't take away from our power. Doesn't take away from anything that's strong in us. But fragility, vulnerability, my goodness, these just basically are representations of a couple of spokes in our wagon wheel. Now, if you are completely devoid of those spokes, if you do not make any room for the fact that you are not invincible, as fun as invincibility feels to you, that all-powerful kind of essence, then you're missing a couple of spokes in your wagon wheel. And for a wagon wheel that's pulling a load, if it's missing a couple of spokes in it, doesn't it make that wagon wheel more susceptible to breaking once it travels a while? So we want all the spokes in our wagon wheel to be present. We want to have a whole, healthy, complete wagon wheel with all the necessary spokes that were intended for it to have. We don't want missing spokes. That's absent parts of the personality structure. I mean, look, yeah, I'm a pretty strong dame. I'm a pretty tough cookie. But I'm absolutely aware of my vulnerability. I am. My feelings can get hurt quite easily. It turns out I am a somewhat sensitive being. My feelings can get hurt by someone that matters to me. If I'm doing tasks around my house and I'm having to climb up on a ladder to do them, I am so ultra cautious and slow and careful about my movements as I'm ascending and descending that ladder because, oh my God, at my age, I can't afford to fall and break my back or a limb. That would be not a good thing. So I respect that vulnerability in me. I respect that I can be hurt physically, emotionally, and you should too. Some of the most powerful people on the planet are only powerful because they respect their vulnerability. They honor it. That's the only thing that actually keeps them from continuing to put themselves in harm's way in relationship experiences. While they're out driving on the road, if they're off skiing on a vacation, they're careful. They use caution because they know that they can be badly hurt. And if they're badly hurt, maybe it's going to infringe on their ability to go to work and earn a living. Many years ago, when I was in the beauty business, I had a male client who told me about his skydiving experiences. And he said, I busted my kneecap when I came down from the sky. I busted my kneecap. He says, when I thought of doing this, engaging in this activity, it never occurred to me I could hurt myself. I thought, well, maybe I'd die. I could kill myself. If my chute didn't open, I might die falling from hundreds of feet up in the air. But he said it never actually occurred to me I might hurt myself seriously enough to really impair my body's ability to move from that point forward, to walk. I never forgot that. It's okay to be vulnerable. It doesn't take away from your strength. It doesn't. It's just part of being a human being. It doesn't take away from your empowerment, your strength, your brilliance. It doesn't impede on those parts. Everybody's vulnerable. Every living, breathing creature on the planet. The little tiny lizards, the baby lizards in my yard, and the grown ones, they're vulnerable to attack. My cats are vulnerable. I've started letting them outside. They mostly stay right around the house, except for one of them who's a great adventurer. But I just say a little prayer that they'll be protected and they won't get mashed in the street. They won't get eaten by a coyote or sprayed by a skunk. But they're vulnerable out there, which is why I've kept them in all these years. Every living, breathing creature is vulnerable, including you. Now, that's not the totality of you. It's just a spoke or two in your wagon wheel. It's okay. But if you don't honor and respect the fact that you have some fragility, that you can be hurt physically, emotionally, professionally, whatever, well, my dears, you're going to be quite careless with yourself. You're going to go through life thinking you're invincible because that's who you believed you needed to be as a child in order to surmount the substantial challenges you had to hurdle over in your home environment. Maybe you grew up with an impaired parent or two and you decided, boy, that's never going to be me. I'm going to be smarter, faster, stronger, more empowered than they. I'm going to take much better care of myself than they, because they didn't take care of you very well. So you had to take over that job of taking care of yourself. And that led to taking care of everybody else, because from that you derived your sense of empowerment. Read my article, Do You Love to Be Needed or Need to Be Loved? It's always at the very top of my articles page at gettingbetter.com. And it speaks to the core injuries in compulsive caregivers, pathological caregivers, codependent personalities. And it's coming out soon as a book in a much more expanded version. And I'm excited about that. And with any luck, it'll go flying off the bookshelves. Or you'll be downloading it as an ebook or something. In any case, I had to cure myself of my own codependent leanings many years ago. And I write about that in the article. I've been able to retire from my work, my healing work, because I don't have this deep, desperate need to be needed. It doesn't form the basis of my identity. Who I am is what I did for a living. But what I did for a living isn't the totality of who I am. I have lots of different dimensions, and some of them are quite talented and brilliant. And so do you. Maybe you need to get to work with somebody who helps you identify what those areas are in you, so you can appreciate more parts of you, not just this caregiving, codependent addiction, affliction. But I've digressed, as I promised you I might. At the start of this video, empathy, very different from sympathy. Very different. Lots and lots of borderlines can feel sympathy for a wounded animal, for a man on the street with no legs, but they cannot empathize with you and your pain. They cannot understand what you're trying to put across to them. Doesn't make sense, doesn't compute. Their comprehension skills are very limited. Because they're underdeveloped, they literally have the emotional makeup of a 3-year-old. You wouldn't try to put a complex idea or concept across to a 3-year-old, or try to help them understand your innermost feelings and struggles, would you? Well, doing that with a borderline is essentially the same thing as doing it with a 3-year-old. They just can't relate. And besides, they resent you for having a need. They're the only ones who are allowed to have needs. You're not allowed to have needs. So it's always kind of a one-sided operation when you're with a borderline. One-sided deal. You give, they receive. You are generous, and they take. And they have this false sense of entitlement that just because they're beautiful and they've got a killer body and they're great in bed, they deserve everything that's coming to them. But what's inside that lovely package? Is there somebody who's capable of attaching and loving you back? Empathy and sympathy are very different. If you go to gettingbetter.com and look down toward the bottom of my articles page, you'll find my glossary. My glossary page speaks to empathy and how it's different very different from sympathy. So, I'm hoping this has been a little educational for you today. It's one of those spur-of-the-moment videos, and as is somewhat typical of me, it sort of led me on a circuitous path today. But it doesn't mean that those tangents were any less important or vital for you to hear about. So I'm hoping you have a marvelous day, what's left of it, or evening. And goodbye for now.